Welcome back, everyone, to Uncle Three's ghost storytelling channel, Night 32. Tonight's tale unfolds from the wartime years, its haunting consequences still echoing into peacetime with chilling ghost stories. Uncle Three heard this story from a friend in Cambodia who witnessed the eerie events firsthand within his own family. It's a poignant reminder of the countless families separated by life and death during the desperate flight from the Pol Pot regime. The story begins with a family fleeing a war-torn region in search of peace. Many perished along that arduous journey. Our protagonist is a young man named Sokha, a beloved grandson in a vast and prominent family from Phnom Penh. Sokha's father was the fifth child among 10 siblings. Growing up, Sokha felt incredibly fortunate. His household was always full of aunts, uncles, and cousins, a pleased and complete family. Everything seemed perfect for Sokha, with his family possessing wealth, power, money, reputation, and status. Their house was enormous, truly massive. This particular incident occurred when Sokha was still a boy, specifically in 2003. It was around 7:08 in the evening, and for security reasons, Sokha's family had already closed and locked their doors for the night. But that evening was different. His grandfather went downstairs to open the door, needing to do something with the potted plants outside. As he stepped back inside, preparing to lock both the outer and inner doors, Sokha's grandfather was suddenly shocked to see a naked, short-haired woman, missing an arm, sitting in the hallway. She was facing the garden, perched on the railing with her legs dangling. Upon closer inspection, the grandfather realized she was not only missing one arm, but was also covered in numerous cuts and red, blood-like paint. The sight terrified the grandfather, who let out a startled cry. This brought the entire household, all the aunts, uncles, and cousins living under that big roof, out to sea. Everyone was utterly bewildered and panicked, unable to fathom how this woman had gotten inside their home. The family was terrified. While the men hesitated, Sokha's grandmother, being a woman herself, bravely approached for a closer look. What she saw made her scream, "Oh my goodness, everyone! She's missing another leg." The woman was missing one arm and one leg. This only deepened the mystery. How could she have entered the house? Sokha's family was wealthy, but their home had only one main entrance. If she had hopped in on one leg, there should have been sounds, footsteps on the tiled floor. Yet, she had entered without a sound. The family, puzzled by this impossible entry, called the police. When the officers arrived, they too were flabbergasted. It was an unprecedented situation. How could a naked woman, missing an arm and a leg, navigate the alley leading to Sokha's house? The police station was right at the start of that alley, and it was a busy street. For a woman with such severe disabilities to hop a long distance without crutches or any support, all the way to the house, was highly improbable. Yet, it had happened right there in Sokha's home. The police were at a loss for an explanation, theorizing that perhaps she had come through smaller, connecting alleys where she wouldn't have been seen. Sokha's grandmother took a large coat and draped it over the woman to get her out. The woman remained silent, unresponsive. They tried to get a couple of other women to help guide her to the police station, but people were hesitant. First, because it was unsettling, and second, because she was filthy. As they stood there, unsure of what to do, the woman suddenly began to hop, step by step, towards the door. When she reached the doorway, she turned back and looked into the house. At this moment, Sokha observed the fear etched on his grandparents' faces. His grandmother's eyes were brimming with tears. The woman's gaze was unsettlingly strange, fixed solely on Sokha's grandparents, ignoring everyone else in the room. She hopped a few more steps outside. Then she spoke. "It's me, it's Bopha. I'm home. Mom and Dad, I'm home." After uttering these words, she turned and left. Sokha's grandparents were utterly stunned by her words. His grandfather swayed, barely able to stand, and his grandmother looked as if she might faint on the spot. The rest of the family, aunts, uncles, and cousins, were equally bewildered. That night, Sokha saw his grandparents couldn't sleep. His grandfather endlessly paced the hallway, smoking one cigarette after another. They couldn't comprehend why a homeless, disabled woman would enter their home, only to look at them and call them Mom and Dad as she left. Who was she? And why did she address them that way? The woman was taken to the police station that night. By midnight, the police had identified her as a homeless beggar from another ward. They prepared the necessary paperwork and escorted her back to her ward. 2 days later, the entire neighborhood where Sokha lived was abuzz with shocking news. The woman had died at an electric pole near a street intersection. Police from both wards immediately launched an investigation and conducted an autopsy. It was determined that she died from a cold stroke caused by the cold weather, with no signs of murder, suicide, or any other foul play. However, the rumor quickly spread throughout Sokha's neighborhood. Everyone, the police, the neighbors, had witnessed this woman hop into Sokha's house and utter those perplexing words to his grandparents. Furthermore, people in the woman's own ward confirmed that she had lost her arm and leg in a landmine accident from earlier times. But here's the kicker. She hadn't been able to walk for many years, usually just lying in one spot at an intersection to beg for money. So, how on earth did she manage to cross an entire intersection and make it all the way to Sokha's house that night? This bizarre incident and the growing rumors began to unsettle Sokha's family deeply. Overwhelmed with fear, they decided to call upon a renowned shaman. The shaman arrived, listened to the story, and set up an initial offering table. After completing the first setup, the shaman looked directly at Sokha's grandparents and asked if they were hiding anything from him. The grandparents immediately invited him into a private room to talk. No one else knew what transpired behind those closed doors. When the shaman emerged, he set up a completely different offering table. This one was much more elaborate, with more dishes, and notably, a black spirit tablet placed upon it. Even stranger, after the ceremony was performed, the shaman instructed everyone, all the siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins, to don Cambodia funeral attire. Standing before the altar, Sokha's grandparents spoke. "Mom and Dad welcome you home. The fault here is Mom and Dad's. Part of the fault is Mom and Dad's, but part of it is also the fault of the war. Mom and Dad welcome you home, asking the shaman to bring your soul home for worship." After they spoke, the shaman performed the ritual and placed something into a jar. And from that day forward, that jar rested on the ancestral altar of Sokha's family. About a week later, Sokha's grandparents gathered all their children and grandchildren. They finally revealed the long-kept secret. During their flight from the war, they had carried 3 children with them, an eldest son and 2 daughters. During their desperate escape, they stumbled upon a Pol Pot landmine. It exploded, and their daughter, Bopha, was killed instantly, her body dismembered, losing an arm and a leg. Sokha's grandparents were consumed by grief, weeping over their daughter's remains for days. They eventually buried her right there on that piece of land and continued their chaotic journey with the other refugees. After the war ended, Sokha's grandparents returned to Phnom Penh, settled down, and rebuilt their lives, eventually achieving stability and prosperity. Over the years, they tried to find Bopha's grave along that old escape route. But the land had been paved over, transformed into a road, and they could never locate her remains, or the remains of any other lost souls from that time. According to the shaman, Bopha's soul had finally found peace and was seeking a way to return and say a final farewell to her parents with no ill intent. The shaman believed that Bopha chose that specific disabled woman because the woman was nearing her own end that very day. So Bopha borrowed her body to make that final visit to her parents. It was a last peaceful farewell to Sokha's grandparents. The elder son and daughter, Sokha's father and aunt, hadn't recognized or remembered their sister because they were too young at the time. The brutal memories of war were simply too cruel for them to recall that a little sister had been lost during their parents' desperate flight. This story, not filled with terrifying images, is instead imbued with the profound wonder of the spiritual. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet again on Night 33.